Morning, Nancy. Morning, Bob. Morning, John, the van driving legend. Still a legend, still a driving god. Morning, Stuart. Morning, John. Ali, Chris, Jim, Eddie, Jane, Ian, Christine, Thomas, Margaret, Robert, Doug, Tricia, Bob, Scott, Paul, Tina, flying in the door today. So we are. Morning, Mr. Nickel. Morning, lads Braveheart. Morning, Hugh. Hey, Hammy. Morning, Catherine. Adele. Rosalind. Doug. How we doing? Numbers are climbing nicely, folks. A couple more seconds to get on board. Get comfortable. Get your cup of coffee. Or get to the bloody naughty step if you're late. Morning, Martin. Morning, Alison. Ricky. Alex. Adele. Right, yeah, we're almost there. Let's say almost 100 on board. So let's get this broadcast underway. It's Indie Truck Davey with the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is a lovely morning at the moment. Clear, 7 degrees. Rain in the forecast later, right enough. Okie dokie. Right, let's get this news review underway. This is a news review for the 12th of the 1st, 2023 from the colony of Scotland, or better known to you and me as yesterday. Alright. Thursday started with two main themes in the rags, according to the Pravda, but it was more than that actually. Anyway, the two main themes in the rags yesterday were A&E death soar and prepayment meter scandal. Now, according to the rags and the Pravda, 60 patients a week are dying due to long waits in A&E in Scotland. If that's the number in Scotland, then the number in England must be horrific, because there's 11 times of the population down there, and as we know, their health system is in a worse state than ours. So, if we're losing 60 a week, they would be losing 660 just to be on a parity base. Mental. Right. On the pre-premier scandal, the Herald says 400,000 people, stroke families, stroke households in Scotland went for a period without electricity because they didn't have enough funds to top up their prepayment meters. And what the Herald was saying is 400,000 people, stroke families, stroke households, whatever it is you want to call it, didn't have any power, gas or electricity for cooking and heating for periods of time last year. Sore one. Absolutely mental. Right, moving on Thursday, and the MSM, the Pravda, turned a good news story into a bad news story to have a go at the education sector and Scottish Government policy. It's Scottish Government policy to get more kids from the private areas into Scotland's top universities. So, apparently it's working. Because how the MSM turned this into a bad news story was, they say that rich kids can't get the courses they want at Scotland's top universities because kids from worse off backgrounds or not as well off backgrounds are getting the university places. Well, as a Davy says here, the middle and upper classes have had control of the old school tie network for too long. So having that kiboshed and battered right out of the water by having people from less well-off backgrounds taking up these university places, good. It's about time to crack their stranglehold on the old school tie network. So that's a good news story. More kids with the private backgrounds getting into our top universities. But as I say, the MSM and the Pravda turned into a bad news story, saying that those kids from less well-off areas are depriving wealthy children of their God-given right to the very best education. Well done, Scottish Government. Right, moving on Thursday. And a new report out offers hope for millions of UK citizens suffering from long COVID. Anyway, according to the study carried out in the last couple of years across the world, most people who contract long COVID are symptom-free within 12 months. So if you're suffering from long COVID, they tell me it's a horrible thing to be suffering from, but apparently the effects generally are gone within a year. Okay. Right, moving on Thursday, and Tory MP Andrew Bridgen suspended from the Tory party for backing so-called COVID conspiracy theories and likening the vaccine programme to the Holocaust. According to Mr. Bridgley, we've all been getting shot in our arms. To pit his odd in. Anyway, that gets his bahookie kicked out the Tory party. Because let's face it, the only thing they've got to say when it comes to the disaster that was the COVID pandemic here in the UK was furlough and vaccine rollout. And as it turns out, these vaccines are not very effective. I don't think they're killing many, but they're not very effective. All right, moving on Thursday. And it's been reported that millions of citizens are postponing their retirement due to inflation and the cost of living crisis. Now, apparently, state pension and private pensions that go along with it's just not enough for most people to get by on. Well, we do know the state pension is not enough to get by on. It's about £11,000 a year. Absolutely horrendous. You work for 33 years. If you'd have put that money into a private pension, you'd have a comfortable living. But no. Anyway, people are not drawing their private pension because it's not gone far enough. Sorry, people are not retiring apparently because of the cost of living crisis. Bad news story, really. No news for the people who were planning on retiring, but for the kids coming through. Because if nobody's retiring, then there's no job vacancies becoming available. So not good. Right, what else we got? Also Thursday, NHS bad story of the day says Scots lose out in cancer lottery. Apparently a third of prostate cancer cases are diagnosed too late to be cured. Now, the MSM say it's due to lottery postcode lottery. Sorry, whether you get whether prostate cancer is diagnosed early enough to be treated or not. That's not it at all. That's not it at all. There's a Davy says here. Davy says 2 years of most of the testing facilities being shut down, no access to GPs, and of course, men are quite reluctant to go along to their doctors unless they're half dead. So it's not going to be a postcode lottery which is causing prostate cancer cases to be diagnosed too late. There'll be the problems in the NHS backlogs and the fact that GP services weren't really available and the testing was shut down for a couple of years. And of course, guys, we don't let you go to the doctors unless there's a bit hanging off us or we're half dead. You know. So that's more likely to be the cause of a third of prostate cancer cases not being diagnosed early enough rather than a postcode lottery. Right, moving on Thursday, and King Chuck's in Scotland to visit an Aberdeenshire men's shed. King Chuck is on a short break at Buck Hall, a mansion on the Balmoral estate, as if we give a damn. Huh. That's what King Chuck gets paid millions and millions of pounds a year to do. Go and visit men's sheds and food banks and all that pish. Pat the populace on the seat and say you're doing a good job. Who gives a damn what the idiot for the gilded cage thinks? Wee message for Davy for him. Piss off back down to your gilded cage in England. Right, moving on Thursday, in Greater Glasgow and Clyde Health Board suspend elective procedures due to unprecedented pressures in Greater Glasgow. and Clyde Health Board area. Now, it said that the elective surgeries that have been cancelled are for non-life-threatening operations, and it's to allow them to concentrate their resources on those who are suffering life-threatening conditions. Now, this happened here in Lanarkshire and all, and it's happening widely right across these islands, but we'll get a wee bit more of that when we get to First Ministers, alright? Talking of which, we get to First Ministers. First Ministers on, first up's Dross. Dross starts off on Greater Glasgow and Clyde suspending elective surgeries, and he says that the new Queen Elizabeth Hospital is a piece of junk, the worst performing hospital in Scotland, and that the staff there are working in third world conditions. He also goes on to say that nurses in NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde are doing 24-hour shifts. Highly unlikely, definitely a lie actually. The First Minister points that out to him. She also points out to Dross a big list of counties in England who have also adopted the same position as Greater Glasgow and Clyde of no performing elective surgeries because of pressures on the NHS. Dross says the First Minister pointing this out is despicable, and Dross was just as usual. I think he thinks he's at an amateur dramatic society or something, instead of in a debating chamber. Wow. It was ungratifying. It was ungratifying to watch, honestly. I mean, he really is a pathetic wee skank. Anyway, he gets his bahookie set, his slapped and sent to the noise there. Next up is Sarwar, and he goes in the same pish. And he tries to tell the First Minister this has got nothing to do with COVID. This is going to do with 10 years of neglect by the SNP government. The First Minister hits him with a flurry of stats and says to him, 1,200 people this week in hospital with COVID and 1,000 people in hospital with flu. What are you talking about is not getting to do with COVID or flu, you spanner. That's 2,100 hospital beds that are blocked with people with winter respiratory diseases or COVID. Anyway, Sarwar doubles down and repeats himself. Says the PME, everybody says it's no COVID. It's 15 years of Scottish government neglect. So for 10 years, 15 years. And what Sarwar says is, you've created the problem, you're not the people who fix it, and the First Minister slaps him right across the dish and goes, that's for the people to decide. No you. And she's right. And the people trust her and her party in droves before they trust any of the cuckoos in the nest. So once again, she hits them with the fact that funding for the NHS has doubled under the NHS under the SNP's watch. There are 30,000 more employees in the NHS under the SNP's watch. She also goes on to talk about the 1,200 people with COVID and the 1,000 people with flu. It tells Dross, tells Poverty Price Sarwar he's living in cloud cuckoo land if he doesn't think that's having an effect on the NHS. He gets his bahookie slapped and sent to the bloody naughty step. Now, next up was Mr. Irrelevant Cole Hamilton. And for a wee change, Davy does know what he said because Sarah was yapping about it when I picked her up to work. And apparently he was on about GP services. And he tells us there's a young Ukrainian woman, 22-year-old apparently, couldn't get a GP appointment in Scotland, so she sticks him and back to Ukraine. That's about as believable as anything. You know, that's unbelievable actually. Of course, it's pirated in the papers today. So I guess we better try and track down this 22-year-old lassie who couldn't get a GP appointment
So went back to Ukraine, because this doesn't sound like a real story to me, folks. I don't know about yous. It doesn't sound like a real story to me. You all know yourself that anytime Davy picks up a phone or his wife picks up a phone to the GP service, we get to see a GP. Generally the same day, 24 hours later, if at worst. But if any of you guys have got problems where you've taken weeks and weeks and weeks and months to get to see a GP, stick it in the comments so that I can have a look. Because I just find that unbelievable. In fact, we were talking about it last week. Sarah's got a pre-diagnosed condition. She was in pain, phoned the surgery. Doctor's back on the phone here in 20 minutes. Come to the surgery, Mrs. McGuinness, pick up your painkillers. 40 minutes. If we start to our first call to me going to pick her prescription up. Where? Previous times she needed to see a GP, seen the same day. Middle of the pandemic, Sarah's getting all the cancer tests done after seeing a GP. Don't know how it is with you guys. If you've got problems, put it in the comments to say. But even at the height of the pandemic, Sarah and I could mask up and go and see our GP in person. Wow. It took you 7 hours, John, to see your GP 4 weeks ago. That's no bad, 7 hours. Not quite up to the standard of my local surgery. But no bad. It's not quite get your bags packed and go to Ukraine time way, is it? Sort of waiting time. So, Cole Hamilton's trying to convince us all that a 22-year-old with a pre-diagnosed condition, Barhead, shocking, is it, Chris? I really don't know. As I say, that's why I want you to put it into the comments, because it's not something that I've come across. I can only talk about my own experiences. But the idea that this 22-year-old couldn't get treatment here in Scotland, so went back to a war zone to get treatment, it just doesn't fly to me. Cole Hamilton just sounds like he was making it up, to be honest with you. So, as I say, I didn't know what Cole Hamilton was on, because Sarah would tell me. We were discussing it, because we did talk about GP services here in Scotland. You know, and because we don't have a crap surgery manager, then we generally get the appointment when we want it. But see, she couldn't get the medicines here, but she could get it in Warto in Ukraine. I heard it. So, as I say, it just didn't sound like a real story to me. It really didn't. I find it hard to believe that couldn't they get to see a GP or couldn't they get the treatment here. I find that hard to believe. Anyway, First Minister's questions was the usual push. The cuckoos in the nest taking the easy route and battering our NHS, its hard-working staff. If these bams think ambulance chasing and slagging off our national treasure and their employees is going to win them votes, they really are living in quite cuckoo land, aren't they? Cuckoos in the nest from cuckoo land. Right. So that was First Minister's for you. NHS takes a bashing after cuckoos in the nest. Not one of them get an answer to the problem right enough. You know, especially poverty pie Starler. I mean, let's face it, the potential health minister if poverty pie was First Minister would be one brain cell Bailey. And we think the NHS is in trouble now. You imagine what it'll be like with one brain cell Bailey as the health minister. They tell me she used to be a teacher. Christ, there must be an awful lot of stupid people in Western Bartonshire. Saying that right enough, did they keep voting Labour? Okay, what can you say? Jim, you can't fault your GP in Glenrothes, Bowness Road Medical Practice in Grangemouth are a disgrace. I don't know whether it's GP management or what, surgery management or what. To say, it's not something that I'm aware of. Right, moving on Thursday. Another ferry story. Karl Marx getting a smacking and the Scottish Government getting another smacking out of a fairy story.
Anyway, apparently MV Isle of Mill
Was in Aberdeen for a refit. It should have been back in service at Christmas, but the refit ran out a wee bit because they found some rust on the hull. Had to treat it, paint it, all that sort of thing. That held up getting the thing back into service. But anyway, it gets out of port after its refit, and it's on its way out of Tap and down the west coast, or to head down the west coast back to its route in Mill, when the port side engine gave out. So it broke down and had to be towed to Orkney for repairs. Now, apparently it's going to take a wee while to get this tub up and running again, because the spare parts have got to be shipped to Orkney to be fitted. So there we go. Another ferry story, just to keep the ferry story going. Absolutely mental. That's how little news there was in Scotland yesterday. I didn't really venture far out Scotland yesterday. Down that road, of course, it was reported yesterday that one day next month, the unions are going to coordinate and 100,000 civil servants will go on strike at the same time. That's great. That should see the government quiver in their boots. Right, moving on. Thursday, and another boat-related story. 1,170 Ukrainian refugees housed in a cruise ship on the Clyde to be rehomed by the 31st of March as the Scottish Government's contract with the ship owners comes to an end. Refugees Minister Neil Gray, MSP, said the Scottish Government is working with Glasgow and other local authorities to find more sustainable accommodation for the people, the Ukrainian people, for as long as they need refuge in Scotland. So there we go. 1,000 people needing rehomed by the 31st of March. And I'm sure it will be achieved. It'll be difficult, but it will be achieved. Imagine, 3 people was diagnosed with cancer, 21, 22, all treated in 16-week time frame in the Inverclyde area. That sounds good to me, Margaret. Right, moving on. Thursday, and the UK's Imperial Prime Minister is visiting the colony of Scotland. He and the colonial First Minister held private talks in an Inverness hotel. Apparently they spoke of the NHS, the economy, the Gender Recognition Reform Act, and there was a robust debate, apparently, meaning an argument, about Scotland's right to hold an independence referendum, or Scotland's route to independence. So, after the meeting, the First Minister was asked about it. She said, aye, we'll work where we can. Don't agree with his politics, we'll work where we can. Which is exactly what you'd expect the First Minister to say, because she is a statesperson to her toes. Inside, I'm sure the choice of words that she had for the wee rat were pretty pretty well selected, but being the statesperson that she is, that sort of language was staying her up. So, anyway, that was it. A meeting yesterday, and they'll be meeting again today to announce where the green ports are going to be in Scotland. Apparently it's going to be Rosyth, and it's going to be up there in Cromarty. Never going to happen, never going to work. What's the difference? Anyway, we also as a throw on yesterday's Two Davies show this morning, to tell us that it was great to see the First Minister and Rishi Sunak smiling together. That's called diplomacy, you spanner. And at the end of his wee comment, he'd put GB. So I had to point out to him that GB is the stupidest country in Europe, which has just bloody put sanctions on itself. Wow. So our Imperial Masters here in Scotland for 2 days. His itinerary will probably be kept private because they don't want the Scots mobbing him. A free port to be populated by unionists.
I wouldn't know about that. So, the other stories I picked out to have a wee natter about. I hope you found them interesting. I hope you found them informative. Wasn't it big on yesterday's news? Even the crap coming out of the House of Thieves and carpetbaggers didn't impress me. Alistair Union Jacks in the shit for saying that there's no appetite in Scotland for rejoining the European Union. I think Alistair Union Jacks finally flipped his lid. I think the pressure's finally got to him. No appetite for rejoining the EU in Scotland. The man's an absolute muppet and a Tory liar. So that was about the highlight as far as Scotland's concerned about coming out of the House of Thieves and carpetbaggers yesterday. Secretary of State for the Colony of Scotland, Governor General, Alistair Union Jack says that we don't want to go back into Europe. Wow. Talk about mental. Right, let's see what the rags have got to say this morning. Hey, time's dragging on. What's the rags got to say this morning? Here we go, brace ourselves. This ought to be fun. Right, Scotland's papers, anti-strike war rift. That was the First Minister and Sunak having to go each other out of that one. And gang on passport scam. The Herald goes on. PM's fueling pay dispute with anti-strike laws, says Sturgeon, and she's right. Apart from that, his anti-strike laws won't work. David and I spoke about it yesterday. The Daily Rancid has gangland runaways passport scam. Court told how gangster fugitives escaped justice by assuming the identities of drunks and drug addicts. Sounds like a plan. The Times has. Swedish plan gives SNP hope for axing Trident. This is a story on the SNP wanting really Trident but still want to join NATO. Now, there was a YouTube thing out there floating about on how Scotland can't become independent because of what's called the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap. That's the bit that they've got to protect to stop the Russian fleet from making it into the Atlantic. And let me make this clear to anyone that doesn't understand the geopolitics. The Greenland-Iceland-UK gap has been bypassed for years now. Absolutely bypassed for years. Nobody bothers the rest of it anymore. The line's actually moved up. It goes from Norway across to Iceland, across to Greenland, that way. So the line that they're protecting is actually further north now than what it used to be. So the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap, as they call it, if you don't know what that is, look it up, folks. It's all news. NATO have moved away from it for years now. And the Scotsman has thousands of arts jobs at risk, warns funding body. Well, the Scottish government's got to cut his cloth. And if that means some artists are not getting their annual grant, then terribly sorry. The Eye has rolling strike by teachers will close school again. Of course it will. Talk about state the bloody obvious. Until the industrial dispute is settled, then the strikes will go on. That's how industrial action works. Some of these paper headlines treat us all half-wits. The Scottish Daily Mail has quicker to be treated in Ukraine than on Scots NHS. Oh, Jesus Christ. The Scottish Daily Mail focuses on the crisis in the NHS and says a Ukrainian refugee returned home to Kiev. Due to length of time, they were forced to wait for treatment in Scotland. Opposition politicians described the case as damning. And this one needs investigated. They say it doesn't sound right to me. The other loony rag, the Express has refugee from Ukraine flees Scottish NHS. So a lot of bollocks. Cole Hamilton's going to get screwed to the ground until we get the details of this one. The Daily Telegraph has doors shut for middle-class students applying to top courses. So, an education sector, good stories, an education sector, bad story, because the middle class and the upper class are not getting into the universities they want after they leave their fee-paying schools. The National has Yes, we do want back in the EU. Apparently, in the group's unveiled plan for Brexit anniversary action in wake of Jack's no desire in Scotland comment. To say Arthur Jack's finally flipped his lid. The Metro has sex at number 10 COVID party. Oh dear. Apparently, Flojo's staff, as well as snorting coke, drinking booze, were banging each other at the party and all. Absolutely mental. Right, what's the star go for us a day? The star for Scotland, totally official. Men with fast cars do have tiny dipsticks. Incredibly important Boffin study confirms what we all suspect. The guys with big fast cars are using them as penis extensions, apparently. You got to love the star. The star's brilliant. That's just what you need on a Friday after a gloomy week. With doing the NHS, cost of living crisis, food price inflation, the availability of goods and medicines not as good as they used to be. But the star tells us Clarkson's got a tiny wanger. I should have seen this, a picture of Jeremy Clarkson sitting in the sports car. Sitting on a sports car. You've got to love a start to cheer you up last thing on a Friday before you enter into the weekend. As I say, I might even screenshot that one. That's totally official. Men with fast cars do have tiny dipsticks, love it. Brilliant. Only the star. Only the star. Wonderful. Anyway, that's my go for today, folks. I'm going to pick a dragon up for 10 minutes, so I better get a shifty on. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it informative. And I hope you found the delivery entertaining. Okay. So, as I say, that's what I've got for you today. Now remember, support independent broadcasters, support the independent media, support Broadcasters Scotland, Independence Live, Indie Live Radio, Caldon Media, Truth Radio, the iScot Magazine, and the national newspaper, independent bloggers and bloggers. Nothing got a crowdfunder going. If you want to check out Spare, throw it in the pot. These guys do fantastic work. You know the script with me, I'm not wanting any money out of these. If you like what I do, you can share it with social media platforms. That's up to you whether you do or don't. Now remember, folks, follow the last 2 bits of guidance. Professor Leach and the First Minister are now back on the please put your mask back on stuff. Alright? So take heed. 1 in 25, according to the latest figures. In fact, we'll get latest figures in exactly 10 minutes. On the pandemic here in Scotland, apparently 1 in 25 is carrying the virus, or the COVID virus. There's a lot of viruses kicking about at the moment. So just have a wee bit of thought when you're out and about for your friends and neighbours. And if you have got a flu or a cold, or you're feeling a bit under the weather, mask up. Alright? I hope the 2 Davies will be on Sunday and all. We'll see how David's feeling. But that's it for the weekend, folks. That's it for now. We'll be back on Sunday. And hopefully I'll be back on Monday to do a review of the week. I'm hoping that things are going to calm down the Sunday night now as we get back to normal, and we'll be able to get back to a 5-day week, get back up to speed. Okay. But I'll let you know on Sunday whether it'll be a Monday show or not. You guys look after each other. Have a great weekend. I better go and pick the dragon up for work. I'll check, make sure the loader's ready to go get her. Shh, don't tell her I said that, I'll get battered. I'll catch you all later. Have a nice weekend.